Very good Monday morning to you. And I trust on this snowy and very frigid January morning that you are doing well. And it's our hope and our prayer. This morning we're going to begin a series that I was requested to do. I had put out the request a couple weeks ago that if you had a particular subject or devotion that you wanted to hear, then to send that to me. And so I have a few of them. I think maybe 5 or 6 or 8. I forget what is there now. So I'm working my way through those. And as I work my way through those, I'm going to take the whole week to deal with that and develop that thought. And just to be honest with you, the thought on my end is that if I can develop that thought in 7 minutes each morning, then in 5 mornings I will have preached a decently length sermon. So there used to be a day, I want to tell you this because I know you don't believe it. I think it's on tape. I think I have the tape somewhere if it didn't perish in the flood. But on the tape somewhere is the first sermon I ever preached. And I think seven minutes I read. I had 5 papers. They were printed out, and 8.5 by 11. They were printed out. Each point was printed in a different color, and I got up there on the stage behind the podium, and I basically just read the scripture, and then I read my notes, and I just read through them, and then I stopped, gave the standard invitation, and turned it back over to the pastor, and I can remember. Very faithful and dear saint of God at the church, he came to me, and I don't think he's on Facebook, but Brother Jerry came to me and he smiled and he said, I'm going to pray for you that you can preach half an hour. And then he went and he said to me, I knew a man one time that he began, at the beginning of his ministry, he prayed, Lord, allow me to preach half an hour. And then toward the end of his ministry, when he was so long-winded, he began to pray, Lord, let me just preach half an hour. And so anyways, little fun for you this morning. So over the next 5 days, we'll develop this and put it all together, be a sermon. And so the question that was raised in this and asking to have a devotion was, how do we break apart from the busyness, the extreme busyness, because we are extraordinarily busy. If you look at our society, our country, and our culture, you'll find that we are far busier than other countries. When I worked in tool and die, it always made me wonder. The European nations, there are some places in Europe, most places in Europe, that take 2 to 4 weeks of vacation a year. And they do that because they're not afraid of losing their job to somebody else. They're not it's not as cutthroat and backstabbing, blah, 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 blah. So we find that in America, though, we feel as if we can't stop doing something, that we can't have any idle minutes. And so we're constantly full throttle. Constantly. We're just constantly doing. And I'm one of the world's worst for this. And before the flood, I was just busy, and even now I'm just busy. And so what we've got to understand as we look into this week is that we're not looking at how do we organize things better. What we're going to look at is how we get determined to put the right things in place. Now, the American dream will tell you that you need to have a house, 2.5 kids, 3 cars, a lake, a camper at the lake, so on and so forth. If you have all those things, that's great. But if that's all you live for, and that's all you're striving for, and that's all you're pushing for on a daily basis, then you're going to find yourself very unsatisfied and uncontent. And so in the book of Ephesians, chapter 5, verse 15, he's giving, as Paul's writing, he's giving instruction, and he said, see that ye walk circumspectly and not as fools, but as wise. And so this circumspectly is, he said, perfectly, watching, looking around you, making sure that what you're doing is right. And verse 16 says, redeeming the time because the days are evil. Now, this is is honestly, we know that you and I can't get time back. Each of us have the same 168 hours. You realize you have the same 168 hours that I have. And we can use a lot of excuses with that and say, I require more sleep than you do, or I have these responsibilities and I have those responsibilities. The truth is, we all have 168 hours in the week. God gave us 168 hours, and in 24 of those, God told us, I want you to take a Sabbath. I want you to rest. I want you not to work. I want you not to do these things, and I want you to take a Sabbath. Now, we can go into great arguments about if the Sabbath should be observed on Saturday or Sunday, and I don't want to argue that with you. In the world in which we live, if you can find a day to take off, take it off. And enjoy a Sabbath. That's what God instructed you to do. You need it. Your mental health and your physical health need it. So he says, now redeeming the time because the days are evil. We can't go back and get time, but we can make the most out of, and we can make the best out of every moment of our lives and the days and the hours. And so he goes on. And excuse me, I forgot to silence my phone. And so as we read on, he says, wherefore be not wise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. And so he's developing this thought. He's developing this as he's speaking to them. He says, be not drunk with wine where is excess, but be filled with the Spirit, speaking to yourself in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melody in your heart to the Lord, giving thanks always for all things unto God and the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Now, then this chapter goes on, and we're going to deal with that later, but I want you to understand this is before other people were mentioned, and then he dives into the family. Before all that comes along, he says your time first needs to be given to the Lord. And how we do that becomes this big question that everybody's stuck on is how. And maybe we need to look at the why. And I have the privilege of leading a pastor's conference on Monday mornings. And last Monday, Dr. Mark Golden preached a message on the gathering of the church, and one of the main points that he made was we're not looking at the why. And why is your life so busy? Why you're worried about just you're moving. We like to say this when a ship is sinking. We're just rearranging furniture on the Titanic. If you're not examining the why are you so busy? What is it that you're doing that is going to impact or going to change or going to have an effect on eternity? What is it that you're doing? We don't ever ask why. We don't say why. Why do I do this? In your morning routine, why do you do what you do? Well, many of us would say, well, I get up, I fly out of bed, I throw my clothes on, and I head down the road to work because I'm running late. That's the American way. Why? Why are we doing it that way? Well, when really should be the why is, why am I not spending that first few minutes with the Lord? Why am I not redeeming the time? Why am I not looking and saying, out of everything that's going to take 10 minutes of my time today, I'm going to stop and I'm going to give 10 minutes to prayer and Bible reading. And you know what? If you can get that first 10 minutes, today, the next week, add a couple minutes to it. The next week, add a couple minutes to it. And before you know it, you will be in the reverse of the situation. But how do we, everybody looks and the question was asked, how do we break free from this monotonous rat race where it seems like we're on a hamster wheel? And the first question you would have to ask is your time, your determination. Is it for yourself, self-promotion, and things that you want, or is it for the Lord? And so that sounds very simple, I know, but let's examine it today. And let's take a look, and let's just be like Paul. And he says, hey, redeem this time. And he said, don't be unwise, but understand what the will of the Lord is. Let's spend some time with him. And we use the illustration as pastors. We use the illustration all the time. I wouldn't know what my wife wants if I don't spend time with her. I wouldn't know what she needs in her life right now if I didn't spend time with her. I have to spend time with her. I have to listen to her. And it's my job as a husband to listen to her and find out what she needs. and the husband I need to be, but I have to spend time with her. So before we try to reorganize everything in our life, let's get determined to spend that first hour, that first 10, 15, 20 minutes, get up a little earlier, spend the time with the Lord, and allow Him to rearrange your schedule. So I look forward to this week. I hope you do as well. I hope that if you have to travel today, that you're awful careful. It's very icy out there, and we certainly thank all the road crews. I don't know if anybody watching this does the works on the roads or anything, but we are certainly thankful for them and all of their hard work through the night, making sure that the roads are passable. So you guys have a wonderful day. If you're snowed in or iced in today, spend some time in the Scriptures and praying, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the morning. I pray that God blesses you abundantly.